Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for making the time to be with us tonight. I'm so sorry about the circumstances that have brought you here, but so grateful for my staff and the fact that our organization has the resources, information, and the partnerships that make it possible for us to provide a unique kind of wildfire recovery help resource menu to you. We will be spending about an hour together tonight. We will not be taking questions during this program, but you will be welcome to register for the next in our series, which will be coming up a week from today, How to Read and Understand Your Policy. We will be taking questions during that program, and we will also outline some other ways that you can get questions answered. So tonight's webinar is our United Policyholders Roadmap to Recovery Insurance Orientation. You can download and follow the slide deck for tonight by going to our website and going on the far right to events, where you will find this one, and you will see the link to the slide deck so you can follow along. I know it's tempting to want to try to take notes and you worry that you might have missed something. We're recording the program tonight. We will be making the recording available on our website so you could relax, try to just relax your shoulders so that you can actually take in this information. Of course, if you want to take notes, you're welcome to, but just know that you will have an opportunity to rewatch the program at your convenience, stop it, and start it again. Our Roadmap to Recovery program is what I often call sort of the meat and potatoes of what our nonprofit organization offers. We are a national 501c3. That means we're a charity that is tax exempt. We are based in California. We are a trusted information resource and a respected voice for insurance consumers in all 50 states. For over 3 decades, we've been bringing this Roadmap to Recovery program to wildfire impacted communities. So we have a track record and expertise in being helpful to wildfire impacted households and communities through our information, tools, research, and the advocacy work that we do with our partners, including the California Department of Insurance that's represented here today. Our program consists of post-disaster guidance and services that are focused on financial, insurance, real estate, and construction decision-making and emotional recovery. Our work is funded by donations and grants, volunteers who do pro bono work and give their time free of charge. You can't hire us. Our services are free, but they're limited. We cannot be your individual lawyer or your claim adjuster. But we have guidance that you're not going to find anywhere else because we don't sell anything. We're not looking to have you hire us. We are a charity just like the Red Cross or any of the other charities that you're familiar with that are here for public good. Our partners include other nonprofits, state and federal agencies, and professional and trade associations. Team Up includes our professional staff, 3 of whom are with us tonight, our government and nonprofit partners, and then our volunteers, previous catastrophic loss survivors, like the folks, if you've been to either of the 2 disaster recovery centers that are open right now in West LA and Altadena, you will be able to meet some of our previous catastrophic loss survivors. They are consumer-oriented professionals in our volunteer corps as well, including attorneys that specialize in insurance, claim adjusters, both public and independent, CPAs, tax experts, financial planners, construction, real estate professionals, and that's just kind of the general categories of experts that we tap on a regular basis to inform the information that we then clarify and curate and present to you, our target audience. Just a reminder, we're here to give you general guidance, not legal advice. If you have a specific legal question, we do recommend that you consult an experienced attorney. We don't endorse any of the sponsors listed on our website or the speakers at our workshop, but obviously we do our best to bring you people who know what they're talking about, and are here for the right reasons, to help you. We will, as time goes on and as we get some increased funding to respond to this very, very large disaster, be offering pro bono legal help clinics, and hopefully some pro bono financial decision-making clinics. But as you all know, these past few weeks have been very hectic, and we are getting organized as we speak. You will be hearing tonight from me. I'm an attorney. I'm one of the founders of United Policyholders and currently serve as our executive director. I'm joined by my good friend, Tony Signorelli, who is a deputy commissioner at the California Department of Insurance. He oversees the hotline that answers consumer complaints. He has been at the workshops that the department has hosted last weekend and coming up next weekend, where his staff is available to sit down with you one-on-one and look at your policy and talk, answer your questions. I'm also joined by Annie Barber, our program liaison, who you may have met if you did go to the DRC. She's been at our table meeting with people who have just gone through what for most people is one of the most traumatic experiences of your life. So Annie's been there, and that's why she's on our team, and she's here as living proof that you will get through this nightmare as she has. Valerie Brown is also with us tonight, program specialist with United Policyholders, one of the most experienced disaster recovery experts that you can find. This is just some information about that you hopefully already have. These are the two the Pasadena and the UCLA Research Park West Disaster Recovery Center sites. Those are the addresses. There's the information about this coming weekend, the clinics that the Department of Insurance is offering, and the phone number where you can sign up to schedule an appointment. They will be taking some walk-ins, but we do recommend that you call and reserve a time to avoid having to wait. So if you want to know where I'm coming from, this tells you a little bit about me. I have been an insurance consumer advocate for since the 1980s. I've been shaping and leading the Roadmap to Recovery, our Roadmap to Preparedness program, through which we've been helping people try to hold on to their insurance over the last 5 years and reduce wildfire risk around the state, and also the Advocacy and Action program. I'm one of the authors of that little yellow disaster recovery handbook you may have seen. And I have fancy positions in various places where I get to be a voice for you, the consumer, where decisions are being made that impact you. So at the US Treasury, and with insurance regulators across the country, including your insurance regulator, Ricardo Lara. So this program consists of webinars like this, as well as the website where we have curated decades of very hopefully simplified technical guidance, tips, strategies, tools on decision making, avoiding ripoffs and mistakes, mortgage related matters, tax related matters, insurance problem solving, underinsurance remedies, partial losses, smoke, and emotional support, which is a very important part of our program because we do have both staff and lots of volunteers who went through a previous wildfire, got some help from our organization, turned around and paid it forward by contributing both publications to our Survivor Speak tip series and also being there at disaster recovery centers and participating in our survivor support groups, which you'll hear a little bit more about as we go on through the evening. We do monitor disaster recoveries through surveys, very important. That's the data that United Policyholders has been gathering now for 3 decades plus on underinsurance after disasters has been very helpful to trying to get the laws changed, trying to get regulations in place to prevent this problem. And so, when we down the line asked you to complete a survey, I asked you to please take a few minutes to do it. I know other organizations may be asking you to fill out surveys, and we certainly try to respect your time as much as we can. But that data can really help us help you. So when those surveys come along, thank you in advance for filling them out. And then we also, as I said, will be offering some pro bono clinics. Here's the library we have set up for this wildfire, for both the fires that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So we're calling it right now 2025 California wildfires. Excuse me. So on that landing page, you will see both upcoming events, and if you scroll down a little bit lower on the right side, you'll see where you can sign up. Well, obviously you did sign up since you're here, but we really encourage you to let your friends and neighbors know about the resources that we offer, and the fact that if they get on our mailing list, then they will know when we've got something coming up that they might want to participate in. So these are kind of some of the things you'll find at the website. So the step-by-step guidance that follows the typical timeline of recovery from temporary living expenses to debris removal to all the decisions that you will be making during the recovery process, months and years. Links to sign up for our events, as well as our Find Help directory, which is a limited number of professionals that support us year round as sponsors, and specialize in the subject areas that are relevant to you as somebody who's navigating the recovery process. There are samples of letters and claim documents to help you navigate this process, tips, and then information about events. This is our little yellow book. It's been around for quite a while. It's a really good one if you are less techy, because there's a whole section on recreating your inventory, if that's something that your insurance company makes you do, or you find yourself in that position of having to do it. Make sure you give us your mailing address if you email and ask us for a copy of that book. So these are just a few rules of the roadmap. So just know that California if you're going to lose a home, California is a good state to lose it in, because we have more regulations and laws to protect you in the post-disaster insurance claim process than any other state. So that means that when your insurance company brings in adjusters from out of state, as they almost always do, to just to make it all work, because they don't typically have that many adjusters available locally, and so they have to bring in reinforcements. Those adjusters are supposed to be trained, and they're supposed to know the rules in California, but they probably won't know all of them. So and because we know that a full and fair insurance recovery requires accurate valuations of your losses and an understanding of what you're owed, we really encourage you to use our roadmap to recovery resources, because that will increase your chance of recovering all available insurance funds, especially when you're dealing with an out-of-state adjuster. So where do you start? You want to make a written request for your complete current policy, including all endorsements and riders. Those are those add-ons. Certified copy is ideal. You just ask for it. By law, your insurer has to give you a complete current copy of your policy within 30 days. It shouldn't take that long. But if your insurer is ignoring you and you're trying to get that policy, you definitely should seek help from Tony's agency. There's a link to a sample letter you can use. A lot of your rights get triggered by you putting things in writing. So we recommend that an email counts. So you send that email saying, I want to make sure that I am provided with a complete, current, and certified copy of my policy. If the insurance company writes back and says, we don't know what you're talking about with certified, I wouldn't sweat it. But technically it's good to have it, because that's how you know that they're certifying this is the policy. And these days, with things being in the cloud and digital, it can be helpful to get that certified policy. We encourage you to make a working copy that you can highlight and write notes on of that insurance policy. Okay. If you still have a home standing, but it's charred or it's smoke damaged, and you're here wanting to know what resources we have available, the answer is a lot. These are just a few of the resources that I recommend that you check out on our website: returning to your home after a wildfire, smoke restoration guidance, and then there's lots more that you'll be able to access. So just a few reminders that we say is sort of state of mind. Wildfire recovery is a process, and you take it one day at a time. Pace yourself, don't rush. This is hard advice to follow when you're displaced and being bombarded with solicitations, rumors, offers, decisions, pressure, competition, somebody else moving faster than me, and all those things. Um, I don't need to tell you this. Losing a home is incredibly disorienting. Sleep deprivation and stress impede decision making. It takes months for most people to regain their normal memory and critical thinking function after losing a home in a wildfire. We know that because there are a lot of people involved with United policyholders who've worn the shoes you now are wearing. Um, and we encourage you to speak up. What does that mean? Keep a journal, diary, daily record. Use your cell phone if you prefer, the notes feature, if you're not somebody who likes to write everything down. Whatever system works for you, you want to keep track of who you talk to, the number, their phone number, what was their title, date and time, just a little summary of what was said. Try to keep your paperwork as organized as best you can. We recommend as you go through this process, and we know that insurance is only one piece of it, but that's what we're here to talk about tonight because we know how critical every insurance dollar is to every impacted household, no matter what your income level is. Present your request clearly and in writing. And if an adjuster tells you a rule or requirement that doesn't sound right or fair, ask them. Please show me where it says that in my policy. And sometimes they won't be able to. Give your insurance company a chance to do the right thing, but don't be a pushover. This is our state of mind guidance, knowing that there have been town halls and webinars, and some of your religious institutions may have offered already insurance legal advice. You may have already signed on to a webinar offered by a law firm, and you may be getting this feeling that you've got to be loaded for bear here, and that that you better lawyer up or that kind of thing. I'm here to tell you, after all these years of supporting people in your situation, that we still feel that the best approach here is to give your insurance company a chance to do the right thing, but be realistic about the dynamic here. Okay, think of your insurance claim as a business transaction. Recognize reality. Your insurer is a for-profit company motivated to limit claim payouts. And it is in your best interest to get independent opinions on the value of your losses and what you're entitled to, so you can maximize the value of that insurance that you paid for, right? We often say when you bought insurance, you paid for both coverage and good claim service, and they owe that to you. And there's a lot of rules and laws that require them to give that to you. So insurance is a vehicle to get you back where you were before a loss, but it won't drive itself. You need to be proactive to assert your rights and collect what you're owed. And of course, we all know that insurance policies contain legal fine print, limits, formulas, and claim requirements. And it can feel like foreign language, a foreign country. That's why we are here, to translate for you and try to simplify things. And along with our partners at the Department of Insurance and the advocates that are out there knowledgeable and willing to help you. This last bullet point, I had a really hard time adding this, I will be honest with you. But it is just a reality check. Your policy may not fully cover everything you lost. And that is just a fact of life, more now than ever. But obviously, you should get every dime that's available. Should you expect a fight? No. Some claims go smoothly. We hope yours does. But when large dollars are at stake, disputes often do arise. So we say being politely assertive, informed, and empowered is the key. I'm so proud and pleased to be able to turn the microphone over to Tony Signorelli, who's a deputy commissioner of the California Department of Insurance. He's been there since 2007, so he has 35 years of experience before that. All told, in the business of insurance. He has been a lawyer since 1999. He oversees the department's disaster response, consumer hotline, requests for assistance, and market conduct exams. So those are the audits that his agency does of insurance company claim handling. And the audits that have been done by the Department of Insurance after previous disasters like the Northridge earthquake and smoke claims have been incredibly impactful, because when they do these audits and they find examples of insurance companies not playing by the rules, they issue penalties, and they can really change insurance companies' behavior and help get some remedies for people who have been victimized by that bad behavior. So Tony is the man, has helped enact many of the laws that we've got in California that help disasters survivors collect their insurance benefits timely. Welcome, Tony, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, well, I mean, the main thing really to talk about is, I mean, we're early on in the process, as Amy suggested, and the key is understand that you have sources of information and help through United Policyholders. You have sources and information for help through the California Department of Insurance. As Amy mentioned, we were in Santa Monica last weekend. We saw over 500 people, and we're going to see another 500 or more people in Pasadena this coming weekend. We're also at the disaster response centers. So what we do is, obviously we monitor all the events. We work closely with California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA, depending on the situation, and to make sure that we're coordinated, especially when it comes to the debris removal process, which you'll be hearing about over the next few days and weeks. Like I said, we're at the disaster recovery centers, and we're happy to answer any questions, review policies. We work with the insurance company catastrophe teams. We had them at our workshops last weekend. We'll have them this weekend. We're also looking to create, just so you know, an so-called insurance village near the disaster recovery centers. So we'll have a lot of the major companies. So if you go to the disaster recovery center and you register and you go through the process, you also have the option of, if your company is at this village and you still have some issues to deal with, whether you haven't heard from your adjuster, you're waiting for an advance payment, those sorts of things, we can direct you to that insurance company and make sure that you get what you need. They're going to have the ability to make those advance payments and move things along for you. We also extended our hotline hours. So we're open now till 7 p.m. during the week, and we're also open on weekends. I think 9 to 4 on Saturday and 9 to 1 on Sundays. If you have for dedicated to just this disaster response. So if you have questions, you either want to call and make an appointment for the workshop, or if you just have questions or you want to start the complaint process, give us a call. You could also chat with us online through that, through our website. We have a lot of information on our disaster resource page, so you can go there and get a lot of information on the various laws and protections that are there. And for people that don't know who their insurance company is, or maybe you're a family member helping out someone who lost a home, we have a residential policy locator, so you can go on our website, enter into it, and then if there's a hit, that insurance company will contact you and you can get that claim going.
Okay. Tony, I have a quick question for you about, we haven't even gotten to this yet in the program, but we work together and on a lot of the legislative changes that have given people more rights here in California. And one of them is the ability to ask in writing for your insurance company to give you an advance for you to start replacing your contents, right? We've worked over the years to try to get insurers to waive the requirement that people itemize or pay them a certain amount of their benefits without requiring them to itemize. But at the end of the day, for people to, get their full amount of their contents benefits, most insurers are still requiring people to itemize. But we have this rule that we work together to try to get through. Obviously, we were hoping that it would be that the insurer would pay 85% of your contents and you wouldn't have to itemize, and the most you'd leave on the table would be 15%. But it ended up being this slightly complicated formula that you can now request in writing 30% of your dwelling benefits, but the money is for contents. So am I explaining that correctly? That's the first question.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it got a little complicated when it went to the legislature. It would have been easier to say a certain percentage off of your contents. So the math is based off of your dwelling primary coverage. It's 30% of your primary coverage limits. And you can get up to $250,000 if you have that much in contents coverage, for contents without having to do an inventory. And then down the road, if you think there's still money left on the table, you still have coverage left in your contents coverage, you could then decide if you want to go back and do an inventory to collect that difference.
Right. And so we've already sort of been talking about this. I've been worrying that because, and I've seen a lot of misinformation already out there about this, because it looks like 30% of dwelling, that people think that it's coming out of their dwelling benefits, number one. And I've been worrying that insurance companies are putting checks, giving the advance money with a lender's name, and then people have to jump through that extra hoop of getting the lender to endorse that check over, even though their name shouldn't be on it because it's for contents coverage. Have you been helping people with that already?
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely getting questions about how that math works, and we can when we look at their policy, we can give them an example and show them how it's going to work. But I think the companies are mainly on board with not issuing a two-party check and adding the lender to it. There may
Good.
be a couple small companies, or maybe there's an outside adjuster that is not familiar with the laws, that could happen. But we've been able to resolve those if those do occur.
Good. Okay, good. Um, all right. Tell us about what a consumer can expect if they use your complaint process.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, number one, it's free. We're a state agency. This is what we do. You contact us on our hotline, go online, file a complaint. Even if you just have a question, you can either call us or ask a question online or chat with us. But if you really got an issue where you want us to dig deep into something, my adjuster hasn't gotten back to me and it's been a month, or um, they paid me this, and it had a two-party check with a lender on it, or whatever the issue might be, let us take a look at it. We can get with the insurance company, get the records we need, resolve the problem if it's within our authority, which most issues are, and then we can close the case. However, this is a long process, right? So if we close the case, we resolve that issue, a month goes by, 2 months go by, you have a second issue that comes up. Come back to us. We're not going to have to reinvent the wheel. In most cases, you'll have the same person handling the case, and they won't have to, read through the policy again and your situation. It's just then we'll try and resolve that issue. So we're going to be here for the duration, and we're here at each step of the process.
Okay. Thank you so much. And then what's your enforcement branch up to?
So our
These are the
enforcement
guys with the
branch,
guns, right?
yeah, we have two sections of enforcement. We deal with
And gals.
um, uh, unlicensed contractors, unlicensed public adjusters, insurance fraud, scam artists, that sort of thing. So if you're seeing any of that, feel free to call us. You can call the same hotline number and say either you've been scammed or someone else that has been scammed, and it'll get assigned to an officer who will investigate it. Also, if you think you've been approached by an unlicensed contractor or adjuster, public adjuster, then let us know. We'll take action in that regard. You could also check a public adjuster's license on our website to make sure that if you are going to go in that direction, that they do have a valid license with us.
Okay. So, we say public adjusters are just like any other profession. There's some very good ones and there's some that are not as good. I know in under California law there is a solicitation ban in effect in the impacted areas. So that solicitation ban has not been lifted yet. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. It's lifted 7 days after a mandatory order of evacuation is lifted. So in some areas, it's still in place. So if you live in an area where there's still mandatory evacuation orders, that prohibited period of solicitation by public adjusters is still in place. And once that's lifted, the public adjuster still has to wait 7 days because this is a declared disaster. So if you're
Okay.
being solicited, or even if you've entered into contract already with an adjuster and you're in one of those prohibited areas under this prohibited solicitation law, and you think you want to get out of your contract, let us know because
Okay.
we don't want to see that happen.
Okay, but it is absolutely legal for you for a survivor, for an impacted property owner, to, if you know a public adjuster, you hear of one that somebody has recommended that's good, or you find them in the United Policyholders professional health directory, you're welcome to, you can hire one. They're just not supposed to be out there soliciting you. So that's kind of the lay of the land here.
That's
Um,
correct.
okay. And all right. We're probably going to have more questions for you as we go. So this is a great time for everybody to take a deep breath, um, and make sure that the blood's flowing to the brain and all that. Okay. Um, So now we're going to talk a little bit about getting on the road to recovery. Maybe that's a triggering picture. I'm going to go to my amazing coworker, staff member, friend, Annie Barber, our program liaison. And there she is on Maui in 2023, within weeks of those wildfires. Annie volunteered to go over there and be our representative in the early weeks, just like she's been doing in your area the last week. Annie leads our survivor to survivor support groups. She brings our roadmap to recovery program to disaster impacted regions. She also has been very involved with me and other people on our team in advancing risk reduction and resilience. She navigated her own recovery after losing her home in a 2017 wildfire in Santa Rosa, California, where she lives. And she came on our radar because she was incredibly good at organizing and helping her neighbors. And she helped establish an award-winning local organization called Coffee Strong that supported community recovery and rebuilding after her fire, and did a lot of really great projects to try to both help people support each other, get through the process, but also restore some of the resources in the community that were so important. So Annie, thank you so much for being with us to walk us through a little bit about your journey of rebuilding after you lost your home.
Thank you, Amy. First, I'd like to offer all of you my sincere empathy. This is not easy. If you saw me at the DRC table, I'm going to express to all of you that this is trauma. Recognize it, and please do your very best to take care of yourself. I'm going to share a little bit about my journey back home. I don't want you to think that my journey is your journey. I lost my home in 2017. Our debris removal took about 4.5 months. And on that path of, I lived in Coffee Park. We formed a group called Coffee Strong. And one of the things I took on was doing a matrix of the production builders that came in to have master floor plans. And it's like going into a new subdivision, and you pick an elevation, which is like the outside of the house, and you pick a floor plan, and it's expedited because those floor plans are already approved. It was a 3-day turnaround to make sure the setbacks were in place. So as I accumulated information for my neighborhood, I figured out which one I would like to use. And I hadn't even decided that was the way I was going to go. I got in really early, and I don't want to set the expectations that you should even be looking yet. I'm going to tell you, I am really good advocator for others, not as good for myself. But because of the process that I went through, I knew who I wanted to use, and he took me in the order that I interviewed with him. So this is after my lot's been cleared, obviously, and they have started to prep my property for the foundation. I came around the corner. My boyfriend and I had gone for a bike ride, and all of a sudden, all these men were there. I will tell you that it was a day that was really impactful in my life. My neighbors came around the corner, saw this happening, and had great joy and then tremendous anxiety because they felt like they must be behind. So just please recognize that. The framing, this was a 6-month, because it was a production builder and he had it set up for 20 foundations a month, and then it goes to framing and close in. This is June of 2018. My fire was October of 2017. And at this stage, it's actually starting to look like a house. You can start seeing the craftsman features. This is where I was starting to get really excited. This looks nothing like my old house. It's not the same floor plan. I had a 1970s track home. I would not have reproduced that. And so getting something that was more my style seemed like the right thing to do. This is my house when I got my keys. I received my keys a year and 2 weeks after my fire. Again, that's not normal. You'll have, I think your debris removal isn't even slated to be done until almost this point. So be patient with it, but I just want to show you that it can be done. And there will be a ton of different resources for rebuilding, whether it's production builders, custom builds, combination where you get together with your neighbors and you hire a builder and they do different elevations, meaning, ranch style, craftsman style, yada. And then, different parts of the interior. There's a lot of resources out there on doing this, and they're documented, and that will come together. You just need to be a little patient, which I know is very hard. So, reality check. An insurance claim on a total loss from a wildfire can be a full-time job and/or very hard to manage on your own. So those of you out there, I was very fortunate that I had planned to retire a couple months after my fire. I was going to get another job. I moved in with my guy. He allowed me to go full steam with Coffee Strong. And I worked some, but I didn't have the weight on my shoulders as much as some of you do. My son was raised. You have now acquired a lot of jobs. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your family. You have to go to work. You have to manage your insurance claim. You have to find a builder. Recognize this isn't easy, and a lot just landed on your shoulders. UP, the reason that I now work for them is because we do our best to give you the tools to navigate this and to advocate for yourself. And I think that's really important. Professional help. I have to tell you that basically when we find that you guys have a need, we try to find the professional that can answer the questions that you have, or to do a webinar. So whether it's, smoke, industrial hygienists, government agencies, restoration companies, forensic experts, whatever that might be, we do our best to make that connection.
Thank you, Annie. I think we're going to have some more questions as we go, but I really am so grateful for everything you bring to our organization and to all the people that you support. Okay, where's the money in this policy? So I'm going to go through some very high level basics tonight. But for a deeper dive, I recommend that you register for next week's webinar, How to Read and Understand Your Policy. I will be back with you for that deeper dive, and I'll be joined by a couple of experts that are in our family, excuse me, with years of experience in the insurance business reading policies. As we said earlier, you need to start this process informed. You need a complete and current copy of that home insurance policy. I can't tell you how many people we have encountered over the years who got a settlement offer from their adjuster before they'd even gotten a chance to look at their policy. So we really encourage you that that's your starting point, right? Is to know what you're entitled to. And we went through how to request that policy. And what does a policy consist of that matters? The declarations page, that is kind of the summary. It's usually the first couple of pages. That's going to lay out the basics of what you have in that policy, including any endorsements or riders, those add-ons. Again, we suggest making a copy of your policy so you can scribble on one of it. The main buckets of coverage in most policies will generally they'll have the same ABCD labeling, but not every policy uses that. A is typically dwelling, B is typically other structures, your garages, outbuildings, retaining walls, pools, barns, storage sheds. And then C, personal property, and then D, loss of use. Also, insurers use different words for the same thing. Some of them call it loss of use, some of them call it temporary living expenses. Many of them call it ALE, additional living expenses. We know from our years that it's hard when we throw out unfamiliar acronyms like ALE, but hopefully you will come to understand that that talks about that bucket of coverage that is covering your expenses that you're incurring because you've lost the use of your home. You also will find in most policies some coverage for trees, shrubs, landscaping, scheduled personal property, business property, things that you may have separately listed or insured. Code upgrade, law and ordinance coverage, hopefully you have, so that when you have to make improvements to the original dwelling to bring it up to current building codes, you won't have to cover those costs yourself. And then renters policies have the same general buckets, just without coverage A. Manufactured mobile home policies similarly also generally the same 4 buckets. This is an example of a declarations page, and it should have the basics of the name of the insured, the location of the property, the policy period, major coverages, and the limits. We talk about limits. When we talk about limits, we're talking about max available dollars, right? The most you could recover, okay? Endorsements and riders, you'll see some of those down below there. Again, we're going to go into more detail on this next week. This is just a light touch for you. And lender information, if there are additional named insureds, they should be on there. So you'll see your base limits, coverage extensions, things like this is an example where this person could have bought some of these extended coverages, but they didn't. And then today, a lot of policies, standard policies, not so much the FAIR plan, have extended replacement cost coverage options that you may have bought that increase the amount of coverage that you have on your dwelling. Most policies contain an inflation protection formula that gives you a little bump in available money, not usually that significant. This is an example of a FAIR plan declarations page. It's similar. It's got the same kind of information on there, what this person bought or didn't buy. And as you can see in this one, this person did pay for personal property replacement costs, which is good. That means that they will be covered for what it's actually going to cost to replace their property instead of just the depreciated value. But again, fair plan policies are kind of a world unto themselves. We do have a recorded webinar on our website that you can watch that goes into a lot more detail about fair plan policies. I'm pretty sure, I think Tony was one of my guests on that one as well. And I'm sure we'll be offering some more in-depth support just on the fair plan. This is from that same policy, just a little easier to read. Okay. And you can see their fair rental value. And that is how the fair plan pays for temporary living expense, ALE. Standard policies typically will pay that as incurred. So you can, we're going to get into this in a minute, but basically the fair plan measures the amount of coverage available to you for your temporary rent by what you could have rented your home for had it been available for rent up to your policy limit, which here obviously 50K. That's going to be a challenge in the LA area, obviously. What did you buy? Did you buy that optional 20% bump of fair rental value? Did you buy, does your policy include the amount of coverage you have for debris removal inside of your dwelling? In other words, does it reduce your dwelling coverage once you pay for debris removal, or did you buy it outside so that it's a separate bucket? And again, these are just questions about what kind of a policy you were sold. Okay. This is just a little bit of a comparison between a fair plan and a standard policy. It's unfortunately common to be underinsured after a wildfire, no matter who your insurance company was. You can learn a lot more about that on our website and strategies for remedying being underinsured. And we will be offering programming just on how do you deal with underinsurance. But for now, again, with the light touch, just know it's common if you have a standard policy. It's very common if you have a fair plan policy. We are concerned about how the fair plan is going to be handling claims, just because we know that they were not really built to be insuring this many people, and so they've been short-staffed for a long time, and they should be staffing up, and I know they are, but we worry a little bit about how that's all going to go down. But the Department of Insurance is watching them, and there's lots of professionals that are standing by ready to help you deal with the fair plan. Certainly, though, again, we always say give them a chance to do the right thing. Just don't be a pushover. You have rights, and we're here to help you enforce those rights. So on those temporary living expense benefits, it's the expenses you incur due to having lost the use of your home, rent for comparable housing and furniture, extra mileage and gas to drive to your home or school, or what have you, laundry costs if your rental doesn't have a washer dryer. If you go to our website, you'll find a sample letter where you can request information about the categories of benefits that you should be entitled to there. Your mortgage payments are not covered, right? Because that was an expense that you already had. And then here's these special rules that we have in California. Number one, your policy, the temporary living expense, ALE benefits in your policy must be available to you for at least 2 years, at least 24 months, plus 2 6-month extensions if you need them, if you haven't been able to move back in. But there may be a dollar limit. So you're going to have to do some budgeting to avoid running out of these benefits before you're able to move in to replace your home. But this other important protection you have in California, which can be very helpful at this time, is that you can make a written request for your insurer to advance 4 months of those benefits. Fair plan also counts. Any insurer should be complying with this law. So that is, of course, very important because traditionally you only got reimbursed for these expenses on an as incurred basis. So you'd have to advance the money for these expenses, submit the receipts to the insurer, and then wait for them to reimburse you. But this law is very helpful in getting cash into your hands quickly. The place that you rent should be comparable in size and amenities, but if you do have that dollar cap, you should budget. We know how high rents are despite anti-gouging rules. And benefits, as we mentioned earlier, for a fair plan policy for this category will be calculated on the basis of fair rental value, not comparable. Okay. A lot of people where housing options are in very, very short supply over the years have been able to negotiate with their insurer to use their ALE benefits to buy a tiny home, put it on their lot during the rebuild or somewhere else, or a fancy RV as a temporary residence. Again, these are just options. You know, one of the things we tell people, there's no one path. There's not a one size fits all here. It's the path that works for you and your household, right? If you're staying with friends and relatives and they're not charging you, obviously you're going to want to get that advance, and so it won't matter that much in the short term. But if you you know if you know that's a temporary situation, then you know you're gonna need to deal with that. I've heard about some people having their relatives gin up an invoice, but if it's fake and you're not really paying them, you want to be careful with that. Certainly, we understand that no one wants to leave money on the table, but you definitely do not want to do anything to defraud your insurer. It's just never, ever worth it. Okay, this is just a little more detail on how the Fair Plan's temporary rent coverage works. And then there are that this would be an example that of this. It's a little bit of a nuance with the Fair Plan. I'm going to skip over this. We're going to go into more detail on this next week. Debris removal, you heard Tony talk about it. Generally, most wildfire impacted households have found it to their benefit to participate in a coordinated debris removal program. It ends up being much cheaper for you. That's a link to the LA County website where they will be updating it as they pull together the program here. It's usually with an extensive situation like this. FEMA's involved, maybe the Army Corps of Engineers is involved. It's obviously a very, very big project. If you do participate in the coordinated debris removal, we really recommend that you hold some portion of your insurance that's earmarked for debris removal in an account. We do recommend setting up both a separate email for your insurance claim if that works for you, and also a separate bank account so that you can just keep track of those funds. Put the debris removal some portion of your insurance funds aside, because sometimes if you participate in coordinated debris removal, it can be years before you get a bill from whatever agency coordinated that debris removal. And you want to make sure that you haven't spent all your debris removal money if you are ending up having to contribute something to that cost. Just a few more notes about the flow of insurance funds. We're going to cover sources of money outside of insurance. We're going to go a little bit past the hour. We start a little late, and then we will wrap up. So the flow of insurance funds. California law, we already talked about this, requires your insurer to advance a third of your dwelling limits, 30%, to replace your contents. If you want a full payout for your contents, up to 250,000. I should have mentioned that. So it's 30% of your dwelling limits to replace your contents up to 250,000. It's your option. You are entitled to every dollar of your contents coverage if you can put together an inventory that adds up to your max, right? We have a lot of resources that we offer to help lessen the pain of creating that itemized inventory and the work and the time. But if you end up having to go that route, we've got lots of support to offer you. Your insurer generally under the traditional way they do things is they will pay you actual cash value on your dwelling and your contents once the values are agreed upon, set. And then they will pay you the balance if you have replacement cost coverage, which once you show them that you have replaced things and you have spent more than they already paid you. That's a very simplified way of explaining it, but the bottom line is, unfortunately, insurance companies have set up some hoops that you have to jump through to get all your money. Again, we're here to try to help you jump through those hoops, or get around them if that's possible. So the last bullet point there, negotiated cash outs, it never hurts to ask or try, especially if you're underinsured, we have a sample letter that asks the insurer to just send you the full amount of your benefits without requiring you to jump through any hoops, or fill out inventories or reach an agreement on the replacement cost of your dwelling because you're so obviously underinsured. So these are just different strategies and ideas that have worked for some people in the past. Again, if your insurer holds you to the fine print in the policy, they're gonna make these distinctions in how they value your losses. They're going to have the actual cash value, which is depreciated to what its value was at the time of the loss. We sometimes call it the Craigslist price, versus the replacement value. And there's dollars at stake here. And that's why we will be offering you more and more information about fighting for fair depreciation, and how your adjuster should not do across the board depreciate all your stuff at 15% or something, because both age and condition matters. So it's really not, to the value of something. So it's not appropriate or legal for them to just do a blanket depreciation across the board for everything you had, regardless of the condition and age. Just a reminder, another right you have in California that people in most other states don't have is the right to reach an agreement with your insurance company over what they would owe you if you replaced your home with a home that's identical to the one you lost, stick for stick, board for board. And if you have code upgrade coverage, then that's included, right? Everything, all the benefits you'd be entitled to if you did rebuild the same home that you lost. California lets you take that agreed upon amount and use it to do one of four things: rebuild your house as it was, rebuild a different house, but if you want to spend more, it's on you. The insurer will pay up to what it would have cost for the original house, buy elsewhere, or rebuild elsewhere. So those are your options, and we'll be going more into that as the months go by. What are some of the common hotspots? Communication delays, an adversarial claim process, misinformation, an adjuster gives you wrong information about what you're owed. Maybe they lowball values on the replacement value of your home or your stuff. Maybe they overly depreciate. Maybe you're underinsured. Maybe the insurer brings out somebody to clean up the smoke and they don't do a very good job. That can happen. Some of the other common issues are delays due to environmental issues with the soil or the water supply, and having to recompact your soil, and maybe changes in zoning and that sort of thing. Governor Newsom was very quick to say, we're going to try to expedite permits. And I know that a lot of wildfire impacted communities will bring in reinforcements for their permit departments, so that they can process applications quicker, and bulk up their capacity to serve you quicker, and get things through the process. And of course, common hotspots are scams, hard sell solicitations, and people promising you, oh, you give me, hire me on a contingent fee, and I'm gonna, make everything better for you. And then that whoever made that offer does not really come through. And yet some of your precious insurance benefits are going to that person. So that's common, and that's why there's been a lot of warnings out there from the district attorney's office and the commissioner's office. There are unfortunately people that prey on disaster survivors. That's just a fact of life. And you just really need to check references now more than ever before you hire anybody. All right, we're in the home stretch. Thank you so much for bearing with us. And I know a lot of you have questions. We will be doing our best to get you answers. Very happy to turn it over now to Valerie Brown, our program specialist. 18 years of experience in disaster recovery. You really won't find somebody with a bigger heart and a bigger brain and understanding of all the moving parts that go into coordinated long-term disaster recovery. She's a board member of something called the National Disaster Leadership Team. She's the president of the San Diego Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. She's the vice chair of California Voluntary Organizations Assisting in Disaster. She's been helping pull her flood impacted community of San Diego back from some devastating damage last year. Val, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Amy. So today I'm going to speak just really briefly about the sources of recovery funding other than insurance that will pair with this. And one of the most important is for you to register for FEMA. It interacts with insurance in a way that you, just to be clear, you'll apply, you'll get a denial. And that denial letter is really just a request for more information. It is simply can you provide us, information about your insurance policy, whether you have a deductible, you have a limitation on a certain coverage, gaps in insurance. Those are the types of things that they're looking for. Another resource very commonly used with folks is the SBA, that low interest loan. It's up to $500,000 for your dwelling. There's also coverage for your contents. And there's mitigation dollars with your rebuilding that you can tap as part of that. Every charitable organization that's at the disaster recovery centers or will be at the Wildfire Resource Hub next week, please register for those. The long-term recovery group, that LTRG acronym there, they have an unmet needs process where partners come in with dollars and money, muscle, and materials to help people. There will be register with Red Cross, Salvation Army, any of those groups that are doing that. Please sign up, take advantage of those resources. If you're looking at bank loans, we do have on our website already something on the finances of rebuilding that talks about that in detail. And Amy, in the coming months, obviously we'll be offering more information on that. And then if there is a responsible party there, in the longer term process, there will be a lawsuit potentially with a settlement and a verdict, but those usually come years down the line. So, just be aware if there is a party responsible for causing the fire, those funds would not become available quickly. And then the next slide, there we go. So for FEMA, 3 ways to apply besides showing up in person at the DRC. So you can do it online. You can use the FEMA app, you can call. Be aware that however you register, if you register for things to be sent to an email, it's going to always communicate with you by email. So if you sign up and have things mailed, just be aware how you set up your communications. Amy, this goes back to one of the guidance things we always provide. When you're documenting everything, you might want to consider setting up an email specifically for the recovery and use that so that you've got everything in one place. And the next slide is SBA. So again, SBA is also at the disaster recovery centers. You can call their 800 number. You can go online and do it. And with SBA, just be aware you can, once you complete the application process, you don't have to immediately accept it. You can apply, see what you're eligible for, qualify for, and then you can hold that until you put together your financial puzzle of how you're going to rebuild and figure out what piece you need. And then I believe it's up to 12 months that you can reactivate that. But honestly, it is one of the most inexpensive ways to rebuild. That interest rate, you cannot beat it anywhere else.
Okay. So just the first
Touched on
step.
the,
Go ahead.
yes. No,
Go
I
ahead.
said, I think I already stole your thunder there. Sorry.
No, not at all. I was gonna let you cover it. Doesn't matter. Just to recap, kind of the essence of what we've been trying to convey here tonight. Keep your paperwork organized in a daily record. That paper trail is invaluable to you for a lot of reasons. Understand your options related to debris removal. Use your ALE wisely so it will last. Consider asking for mortgage forbearance. If you're having a hard time keeping up with your mortgage payments, and also your current expenses. Let me ask you a question about that, Val. With mortgage forbearance, do you then end up, does it all kind of stack up at some point and then you have double payments? How does that work?
So for a normal forbearance, yeah, that's the way it would work. You would do like a 3-month forbearance, and then you have to come up with a repayment plan. However, with that Fannie Mae program Here to Help that's on our website, if you go to that, call them. They have trained HUD counselors that can give you up to 18 months of mortgage and financial assistance. And for the disaster, there are other resources available to you besides just a typical forbearance. So please call that number. And check that out. It's a great resource for you. It's free. You do not have to have a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac mortgage to make that call.
Great. And you'll find that information in our wildfire recovery guide that you can download from the landing page of our dedicated library for your community. Another reminder, really check references before you hire. I just cannot emphasize that enough. And there will be some charitable aid and loans available to fill insurance gaps. This is just a reminder how to speak up. As strong as possible, paperwork organized, empowered, assertive but polite. Annie often says, treat your insurance adjuster the way you want them to treat you, even if they're pissing you off and wasting your time. Try to be as polite as you can. Very often they have many more claims assigned to them than they can handle, and yelling at them is not really gonna help. Keeping that claim diary, being insurance educated, which is you're right, you know, you're off on the right foot there, just being here tonight, networking with others. I know there's already some Slack groups being set up, and we're going to be doing what we can to support insurance groups, getting professional help when needed. You know, you can check out our Find Help directory on our website to find some of the law firms, public adjusters or mediation specialists that support us year round, as a place to kind of get familiar with who has been in this world before and is not just sort of jumping in now. Unwilling to be shortchanged, proactive. This is Survivor to Survivor. Annie, you want to just give us a quick hit on this?
Yes, we had our Survivor to Survivor last night. We have a Zoom meeting once a month. And we get together with other survivors and we discuss what we're going through, triggers, what's not working for you and what's worked for someone else in navigating their claim. Last night I think we had 15 new survivors from your fire. We didn't put it out there yet. We didn't know that people were ready. We probably will break off one just for you guys, but it's a really close-knit group. You help each other, you rely on each other, and you get resources from each other. So I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Thank you. And we don't allow outside folks in. So there's nobody in there watching, soliciting, or anything like that. Again, I'm sure a lot of you had questions tonight that you would have liked to ask. But our goal tonight was to get information out to you to really get you in the right frame of mind. That's why we call it an orientation. But if you have questions that you can't find the answers to on our website, you can use something called the Ask an Expert forum. And we have a whole panel of experts that answer questions for people. This is a free resource that that another organization is making available and asked us to help them publicize. These are physical file boxes that are designed by people who've been through wildfires to help you stay organized with your paperwork. They will be making a supply of them available at that wildfire recovery hub that will be opening next week. A reminder that a week from tonight, same bat time, 5 o'clock Pacific, we will be back with you with another class on how to read and understand your policy. We will have the Q&A open for questions about how to read and understand your policy. We will appreciate you understanding that we know that there's just a range of issues people are dealing with right now. People have lots of questions about the process. We are a very modest-sized organization. We're a nonprofit. We're not a government agency. So please bear with us and understand that we bring you the best we can, and we will try very hard to meet your needs as we go through this journey in the months and years ahead. But just know that we appreciate you being with us, and we appreciate your understanding of the limitations that we have, not being able to represent individuals on individual cases, be your free lawyer, be your free public adjuster, but we are your reliable source of information, always here ready to point you in the right direction when we can. I want to thank Annie Barber, Valerie Brown, Tony Signorelli, Amy Ludwig, who you can't see, but who has been behind the curtain with us tonight, making it possible for us to all to be together. So with that, I wish you all a safe and pleasant rest of your evening, as relatively pleasant as it can be, knowing that you have United policyholders on your side, and we are rooting for your recovery. Thank you so much. Good night.